Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Molnar here. Thanks for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather Tropical Edition. Thanks for being here with me. We have Tropical Edition for a reason. Invest 94L holding on out here, becoming better organized, likely to become potentially our next tropical storm by the weekend here. It would be Tammy if it is our next tropical storm, potentially a little bit weaker and further maybe to the west and south. We'll have to get into all the details here, see which islands have the best risk of being threatened by this system. And we're also going to be watching massive tropical moisture from the Eastern Pacific streaming into the Caribbean, the Bahamas, and eventually this low pressure along the U.S. East Coast just in time for the weekend. Could this mean a very wet and windy weekend once again for the Northeast? We'll explore all your weather in detail. Let's get into it. So here's our satellite view of Invest 94L. The big issue with this storm is its massive size. So it's going to have a hard time initializing into a tropical depression or storm. Once it does so, it'll start to slowly intensify. But that's the big thing with these bigger storms is the fact that they drop a lot of rain, and a lot of times they can be very slow moving as well. So starting off with the European model here, and we'll transition over to the GFS. You can see Invest 94L right out here, this big blob of moisture here on the eastern side of this area of red. So we're looking at this continuing to head towards the west and eventually bend around this high pressure system located well east of Bermuda. Now you can see another area of high pressure developing here by the 19th as we get into Thursday. The system kind of getting strung out here. There is some wind shear that's going to be developing, but at this point, it looks like it's going to be a very elongated system at this point. So we're not looking at like a bomb cyclone of any type of storm here. Nevertheless, I think we'll be dealing with some sort of tropical entity here as we head towards the 21st into the 22nd. As you can see here, lots of shower action here. There's also another wave behind it here. Quite curious here as these waves really start to line up, and you can see we're really going to start to get some of these waves even as far south as Trinidad and Tobago here. So eventually as we head into next week, this is right around the 23rd, Monday, we kind of lose our system here. I mean, it's kind of, you kind of see it here in kind of a weakness at the base of this trough here as we get into the 23rd and 24th. So it looks like it's going to kind of hang out here, and then it'll start to strengthen as it heads north of Puerto Rico. One thing that you need to note about this system, though, is it's going to hang out for quite some time here around the northeastern islands, Caribbean islands here. So it's stuck between two high-pressure systems, and the fact that it's staying pretty weak here for the most part, relatively. Here's that big high pressure along the U.S. East Coast. Here's our next one out by the Azores. This system basically has nowhere to go. I mean, it could go up here if it's strengthened a bit, but at this point, the model is kind of meandering the system for days here around the Caribbean islands. And this could produce a lot of heavy rainfall, even towards Haiti, the Dominican Republic, parts of Puerto Rico. So I just want to throw that out there. This track has been bending a little bit more westward here. And look at this. These are some massive high pressure systems out here. Could it be conceivable that we could actually still be looking at this system as we head towards the end of the month? Could it actually bend more towards the west? It is quite possible. Anything is on the table right now, and we need to keep a close eye on this system. Let's take a look at the GFS. So here's the GFS model. We're looking stronger. You can see it's initializing the system stronger. Logic would have it here by the 20th. It's showing pretty intense storm here, tropical storm. Logic would have it that this storm would be further north and east and recurve much quicker than the European solution, which is weaker and further west. Well, here we go. Look how quickly that is. Staying pretty much away from the islands completely here on the GFS. Much stronger system recurving around the periphery of the subtropical high that's retreating towards the Azores. You can see it's getting caught up and picked up by this massive trough up here, which is our coastal low in the northeast by this time. So the European does not even get our East Coast system too much involved in Invest 94. So this is a solution we're going to have to keep an eye on as well, because it would be the solution that would keep this system completely away from land, recurving it out here. Now let's see if we continue to go in time. It safely keeps it away from Canada and the Azores until it eventually affects Europe right around the 27th. So technically it would still be affecting some land masses, but it would be extratropical or post-tropical, absorbed into a northerly system over here in Europe. So there you have it. And then look at the GFS showing another tropical storm or hurricane by the 27th. So a very active pattern. You can see behind it showers and thunder showers developing behind it around the Lesser Antilles. That's going to keep things really active. And look at that, another system by the 28th right around Bermuda. Look at that over there into parts of the Gulf of Mexico as well. Another stalled out frontal boundary. This is an area too. These kind of tropical systems can spin up this time of year. And look at that, lots of energy now into the Eastern Pacific. We're going to be talking about a potential hurricane over here as well. But as we get back to the Caribbean here, if we just back it up just a little bit, there's that massive tropical moisture plume. As we get towards the weekend, you can see how it starts to actually look at this here on the GFS. It looks like that area of low pressure in the northeast is more progressive and doesn't tap into all this tropical moisture here from the Caribbean. Let's go back to the European here momentarily. And take a look at the European run again here with respect to that tropical moisture out of the Eastern Pacific. You can see it streaming here the 19th, 20th, 21st, well up into parts of the Western Caribbean, the Bahamas, and then you start to see here towards the weekend. Look at this tropical moisture just funneling from the Caribbean all the way into our East Coast low here. You have these primary low be weakening here across Canada and the Ohio Valley. And then you have a secondary low developing here along the East Coast. So it's this system that's going to become the bigger primary low. European really blasting this low up into parts of New England. And then here is our primary low weakening here across the Ohio Valley in eastern Great Lakes. So here you have it. Lots of deep tropical moisture getting involved on the European run. Not so much on the GFS run, and our Invest 94L on the European run, keeping it weaker and further to the west and south and affecting more land in the long run here. So let's take a look at our intensity forecast here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits. Look at this. So here's our model guidance, bringing this into a tropical storm, at least by like Friday. Some of the models, though, are still bringing this into hurricane status here. So that's something we need to keep an eye on. Category 1, still likely thinking maximum to moderate to maximum tropical storm. But, you know, this is kind of interesting to see that this storm could actually achieve Category 1 intensity. There are some outliers, Category 2 or 3. Not so sure I'm in agreement with those yet, but time will tell here. This is something we need to keep an eye on. This system looks like it's going to be our next tropical storm. So here is our mid-layer dry air analysis. So here is our Invest 94L. It is kind of surrounded to the northeast and to the west by some dry air. So that is also going to become a thing. You can see here as we head towards Saturday into Sunday. European model keeping the system much more elongated and a weaker storm, which would keep it further to the south. And there it is. There's the tail end of that frontal boundary. You can see our storm kind of flaring up. So this is going to be interesting to see what actually happens with this system. There's the European pushing this system further west as high pressure builds and kind of moves a little bit to the northeast, allowing the system to escape possibly under this ridge of high pressure. It's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, but look at the next battle this system may have is a lot of dry air out ahead of it. Now, getting into the Western Caribbean here, Central America, look at that moisture plume you can see as we head through Thursday. So here's Wednesday into Thursday. Look at the Cayman Islands, 100, 110, maybe 120 millimeters of rain. That's upwards of 5, maybe 5.5 inches of rain. Jamaica looks dry here through, well, you will have some showers. I can tell you that much. Probably about 20 to 30 millimeters. About 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. But your rain really starts to come in later in the weekend. You can see that really starts to fill in. Look at that. We could be approaching some areas in Jamaica upwards close to 80, 90, maybe 100 millimeters in some areas. That's getting in on the order of 3 to maybe 4 inches of rain. But look at the Cayman Islands getting buried with a lot of rain, upwards of 150 millimeters, maybe 6 to 8 inches. I wanted to mention the island of Hispaniola here, looking at the Eastern Caribbean and Central Caribbean. You see, Hispaniola is kind of stuck in like a rainfall shadow here initially. It's as you get into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week, depending on what happens with Invest 94L, we could really, especially the eastern part, Dominican Republic, the northern shore of Hispaniola over to Haiti, we could be approaching 70 to maybe as much as 100 millimeters, 3 to 4 inches. Here across parts of the Leeward Islands, 100 plus millimeters. So we're getting into that solid 4.5, maybe 5, 6 inches easily. Even all the way down to Trinidad and Tobago, that's not too shabby, about 50 to maybe 70 millimeters on the order of 2 to 3 inches. So we're going to have to watch this. This could actually crank out a lot of rainfall here across the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward Islands, and eventually Puerto Rico and parts of Hispaniola. So for the Eastern Pacific here, we have Tropical Storm Norma here. This system is going to continue to strengthen, likely becoming a Category 2 or maybe even a Category 3 storm. European, though, is taking this a bit further to the west here, you can see, and kind of weakening it. And then kind of stalling it as the steering currents become extremely weak here. Still looking like a strong hurricane at this point. Southern tip of Baja California over to areas from Puerto Vallarta all the way up the west coast of Mexico. Should be watching this closely. Nevertheless, a lot of tropical moisture is expected to feed up the west coast of Mexico into the southwestern part of the United States with this system. There it is, the 25th and 26th, and this could actually help feed wherever this hurricane makes landfall. Look at the moisture being funneled into this potential severe weather outbreak across the plains. It could have a major impact on what happens to our weather here in the lower 48. And look at as that continues, landfall looks to be right around the 24th to 25th there into parts of western Mexico. So as we get into the Western Pacific here, let's take a look. We actually have one storm out here. We have a Tropical Depression 16. It's likely to become our next tropical storm and affect right into the very northern areas of Vietnam and potentially affecting South China as well. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. Plenty of tropical moisture with this storm. The big thing is going to be the massive amounts of rainfall that this storm outputs and the fact that it won't be moving very much over the next, say, 5 to 7 days. It's kind of just hanging out here. Now, as you look across the western of the Pacific, you do not really see much of anything. In fact, if anything, it looks pretty tranquil here, with the exception by the 22nd, we start to get some showers here across the Philippines, and you can see that just spinning here towards the northern Philippines through the 24th into the 25th. Some of these systems look like they're maybe packing a punch, but your eyes are kind of drawn up here to Japan by the 24th. You have this area of high pressure here south of the Aleutian Islands. Now watch what happens. There's going to be a big cyclone that kind of kicks up here offshore. This is not tropical, by the way. This is a massive cyclone that's going to be kicking towards Alaska here. And look at another big one. So that could have some big impacts on weather here across North America come the end of the month into November. So our HRRR future radar, yeah, we're starting off pretty tranquil here. There is not a whole lot to talk about. There is some problems up here into parts of the plains. Some shower and thunderstorm activity with this low pressure system as we continue into the overnight hours into early Wednesday morning. You can see some lake effect clouds still persisting here, especially south and east of Lakes Erie and Ontario. But look at that. The flow kind of kicks out of the south as we get towards Wednesday here, and we're eking out a very nice day here across the U.S. East Coast all the way to the Mississippi and Ohio River Valley and the Eastern Great Lakes. This is looking pretty good. This looks like a pretty intense line of showers and thunderstorms here. Some gusty wind will be the primary activity as this low pressure heads to the east. You see on the 19th, though, this is Thursday, we start to approach this storm into western parts of Ohio. This is 11 a.m. We're getting to the last parts of our frames here. This is actually the last frame. This is 2 p.m., so you can expect probably the rush hour here. Parts of eastern Ohio, eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, and parts of western Pennsylvania getting in on the act to some of these heavier showers and thunder showers. Now look at the tropical moisture spinning up out of the Gulf of Mexico and the U.S. East Coast here. You can see all of this moisture. It's going to be in response to, there's an area of showers and thunderstorms, and there's another bigger area off the southeast coast that will be feeding in to our potential East Coast low pressure system just in time for the weekend. So taking a look at U.S.-Canadian forecast here, we're taking a look at the European run. It's pretty unsettled to start off out here out west, both the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada. Look at the massive high pressure across Eastern Canada and the Eastern United States. This is going to become the thing here as we head over the next couple days, Wednesday and Thursday. But watch what happens as we head towards Friday. Here's Thursday, the 19th. We do have this low pressure system diving across the Great Lakes. And watch what it does. It brings some showers and clouds here to parts of the Ohio Valley, Eastern Canada, especially Ontario and Quebec. And that will be moving into the Northeast and Ohio Valley and Southeast Canada as we head later on into Friday, into Saturday here. With that potential coastal low developing here on the European run, you can see the 20th into the 21st as we head throughout Saturday into Sunday. Look where the low pressure is ending up here, right over New Brunswick, Canada. A 978 millibar low with high pressure building in behind it. But look what's happening here. You can see the flow pattern keeping lots of lake effect here into parts of Northeast Ohio, Pennsylvania, and upstate New York. Now, as we get across the rest of the country, it's looking pretty quiet. High pressure building here across central Ontario. You can see some unsettled weather here across the western provinces of Canada here and the Pacific Northwest as we get into the 22nd. Now watch what continues to happen here. That low pressure moves out. A massive 1026 millibar high builds in across eastern Canada and the United States as we head towards the 24th and 25th here. And this sets the stage here for a massive severe weather outbreak as we head into the middle, it looks like the middle of next week. So this could bring some mountain snow here across parts of the Rockies. You look, though, most of Canada looks pretty nice. High pressure is dominating the regions here of Canada until you get to southern Ontario here and Quebec, where you'll see some showers and some overrunning precipitation with that next system that will be moving into the region. High pressure continuing to dominate the East Coast. Could we actually end the last weekend with a nice weekend? Well, we end at the 27th here. So it's looking more promising that we may be able to get one nice weekend this month along the East Coast. It's going to be a close call.
And here's a quick word from my affiliate. Stay with me here. I've got plenty more weather right after this. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
Rainfall amounts here on our European run. It looks like most of it will be falling later Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday here, and especially the weekend there across the east. We'll just stop it here early next week, right around Tuesday. Look at this. So most of the moisture here, especially into New England along the U.S. East Coast, you kind of see the picture here, the first system and then the second system developing. So anywhere from a half to 3/4 of an inch here across the Ohio Valley, Eastern Great Lakes, and then almost 1 to as much as 2.5 inches here into parts of New England and parts of the extreme U.S. East Coast. So as we get into the Northeast here, we'll just zoom in on this. Here is into Friday morning. So Thursday, especially afternoon, evening, here it is. There it is. So Friday morning, rain looks to be moving into parts of Ohio there. So as you can see, this is exactly what's going on. So overnight, Thursday night into early Friday morning, you're going to get about 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch, maybe up towards of a 1/2 inch of rain. And then as we get into Saturday, you start to see the evidence of our coastal low. In fact, you really do Saturday morning. Look how that really starts to fill into the east. You almost see a rainfall shadow here into parts of the Susquehanna Valley, Hudson Valley. So will this save you from some of that heavier rain? It may. It depends on where the track of this low pressure system is along the East Coast. But right now it looks like just to the east of the Hudson Valley, that is where you're going to get those rainfall amounts of 1 inch to 2 inches, locally higher amounts, especially here into northern Maine, 3 inches. But if this were to be a little bit further to the west, this would shift that heavier axis of precipitation further west. And I just wanted to make note, look at that additional amount that does form in northeast Ohio, western New York, northwestern Pennsylvania. That is in response also into the Lake Ontario, eastern Lake Ontario region. This is lake effect rain showers that kick in behind the storm. So let's take a look at temperatures here across the east and the rest of the country for that matter. Look at this into parts of New York, Pennsylvania, New England. We're going to be on the rise, more sun, 61 there in Cleveland, Rochester, almost 60 in Burlington, 62 in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, 64 in New York City. Look at this warm air pushing in from the west as we head on into your Thursday. You can see where the frontal boundary is, though. We get a little bit of a cool blast behind it. It's not too bad, 50s. But look at this push of mid to upper 60s here into parts of the Ohio Valley into the northeast for Thursday. Friday, we start to really cool it down, though. Look at 60s all the way down into parts of the southern Appalachians. I would not be surprised if some areas don't get out of the 50s. But look at this, a massive warming trend behind it here as we get into Saturday. Yeah, you can see here across the northeast, the cooling trend is definitely going to be there, but we're holding into the lower 60s across much of eastern New England, parts eastern Pennsylvania, so it's not too bad. It could be a lot cooler. Sunday, though, we do bring in those northwest winds, and look at that, some upper 40s for highs around the eastern Great Lakes, the Adirondacks, the White and the Green Mountains. And look at that into Monday. Yeah, we're kind of really setting up a massive temperature blast here out west and then back across the east. You're kind of warm here right in the midsection of the country, well into the 70s and some 80s there in the southern plains. Extended outlook for hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Let's take a look. Wednesday looking much more nice, partly sunny skies into Thursday as well. Reaching the low, mid, maybe upper 60s Thursday. Look at this though, Friday, rain will be developing, especially late afternoon, early evening. We still will be holding on to some nice mid 60s. But look at this, Saturday, showers likely. Hopefully it won't be too bad. We're starting to see the European model keep a lot of the heavier moisture just to our east, but the lake effect will be kicking in for Sunday. You can see 51 degrees, breezy conditions. And then look at that into Monday and Tuesday. Cooler, but sunnier as well.
As always, thanks for joining me for this edition of Media Marks Weather. Take a look at my Facebook page at Media Mark, also Weather Northeastern, also Hurricane Northeastern to follow the tropics. And if you want to hop over to my Twitter page, it's at Weather Eastern. It's MediaMark.com. Thanks for joining me. Question or comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification button so you're alerted when a video comes out.